the Durban High Court to be specific. It's day 2 of the multi-million-rand corruption trial involving former eThekwini officials. The state has outlined its case. It has also presented a list of evidence and witnesses that will testify in court. Former eThekwini Mayor Zandile Gumede is among the 22 accused in the case. Newzroom Afrika's Karinda Jagmohan is standing by to give us a bit of detail in terms of what we heard and saw inside court. Good afternoon, Karinda.
Good afternoon, Dudu. Well, much of this morning was the state concluding its presentation of what it will say to the court during the rest of trial, essentially the list of evidence, the list of witnesses. Then there was some arguments about how objections would be handled. The presiding officer, the judge, says objections will be handled on a case-by-case basis because of the large volume of evidence that will be presented. Now, about half an hour ago, the first witness in this multi-million-rand corruption trial took to the stand. But Dudu, you wouldn't have seen it because the state requested for media to not broadcast this witness. But however, he is mentioned in court papers. The first witness is Mbuso Ngobo. He is the head of eThekwini City Integrity and Investigation Unit, and he is the complainant in this matter. Now, as he walked into court, a number of the suspects, the 22 suspects, turned their heads and watched him closely as he took to the stand. And much of the past half an hour was him explaining his role in the investigative unit and in terms of how the SIIU investigates complaints when they're brought to their team, specifically according to supply chain management policies. Remember, this tender is being investigated because it's alleged that the suspects manipulated supply chain management policies to award the tender fraudulently and siphon money in terms of the beneficiaries, political and financial gain, the state alleges. Now, just before we adjourn for break, Mbuso Ngobo spoke about how he received this complaint. He said that a person walked into his office and asked to be anonymous with a bundle of documents that relate to this DSW tender. We stopped for break just at that moment, but from now for the rest of the afternoon, we expect to hear how this complaint of this DSW tender emerged, especially because we hear that this was an anonymous complaint, a person who had the evidence, the documentary evidence about how the money was allegedly fraudulently transferred between the various suspects. Now, just again to recap this case, the state is alleging that this is a form of racketeering or a criminal enterprise that was led by the former Durban Mayor Zandile Gumede, managed by another senior councillor, Mondli Mthembu. The two main accused number 1 and 2, are said to have been the head or the leaders of this racketeering enterprise, and essentially saying that other councillors within eThekwini, business owners as well, were involved in this. They also spoke about how this tender was originally valued or budgeted by the city at 45 million rand. But after the apparent manipulation of this tender and inflated invoices submitted to eThekwini for waste management, that payout ballooned to 320 million rand. So those are the figures we're discussing, along with a number of assets that were seized, said to have been used for payments in terms of beneficiaries. So these are luxury vehicles, as well as reportedly homes that were paid off by in terms of the money that was received from the beneficiaries. So this is what's happening. We've just now started with the first witness as well, and just before break he started speaking about how he got this complaint. So by this afternoon I'll give you an update on what he has to say, and he'll also speak about how the city began a forensic audit. And what was the background of this? The city appointed an independent forensic audit company to look at the trail, they say, of the alleged fraudulent payments. So we're going to hear more about that as well. Over the next course of the week, we'll hear as well from Raymond Rampersad. He's the next witness in line to testify, and he is the head, or is the former head, of Durban Solid Waste Unit, around which this entire corruption trial revolves, a tender there. and he, according to the state, will testify how tenders within his unit were manipulated without his information by his deputy, Robert Abu, who's accused number 4 in this case, essentially pointing towards this idea of a criminal enterprise being conducted within the eThekwini municipality, and specifically that unit. So we've just reached the crux. Unfortunately, with the state's request, we're not going to be able to broadcast that first witness testimony, but by this afternoon, I'll give you another live update about what Mbuso Ngobo has to say regarding this first DSW complaint.
Karinda Jagmohan, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. Still